Okay, happy Wednesday. We're just going to get into it today. No news because, well, nothing big really changed. However, I do want to talk about a few things and maybe go on a little bit of a rant. So before we get started, just to satisfy the old AI overlord, this is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, now that that's out of the way. So there has been 10 warehouse fires or factories, things like that, in the last 7 days. 10. Two of them were here in Ohio. One of them here in Ohio, apparently the employees were told to continue working, even though the building was on fire. Oh, how nice. And of course, this all started with the warehouse burning in Ontario, California. Now, that gentleman had his preliminary hearing today where he pleaded not guilty. And they are trying to put him in jail for 10 years to life in prison. Of course, if he'd have been on the Epstein files, he'd have been just fine. But instead, they want to put him in jail for life. Now, there are people that are saying that these fires aren't doing any good. Although I've heard places that have already got a raise, and I've also heard talk of UBI, which we'll get to that in a minute. But their arguments are that it's eliminating jobs and that the companies will just get reimbursed from their insurance companies. So now, neither one of those arguments are necessarily wrong, but they do have some flaws. So argument number one, it's eliminating jobs. Okay, well, the warehouse in Ontario, California had 50 employees. To rebuild that facility, well, I have heard estimates of 300 to 500 people will be needed to rebuild that facility. So at bare minimum, you have just created a net gain of 250 jobs. So that one really doesn't hold water. Argument number two's flaw is yes, they will get reimbursed through their insurance company. However, 10 fires in 7 days, insurance companies are built to collect money, not pay out. They don't like to pay out money. That's why thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people expire every year, because their insurance company won't cover the treatment for whatever they have that can be treated. And they can't pay for it themselves, so they just choose to go ahead and expire instead of putting their family in a financial burden. If this keeps up, the insurance companies are going to start going, no, we're not covering it. Sorry, we're not doing it. You guys are just out of luck. That's when they'll really start taking a notice. Now, I've been saying here on my channel, and some other of the prepping channels have been saying the same thing, that something's got to give. And we've been talking about this for probably a year or more now, that, with the inflation and the cost of everything and the wages, and that something had to give eventually. Well, it seems like something might be given. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning any of these actions by any means, but I do understand the point behind them. People are tired. People are tired of working their butts off and still not being able to afford to live. I mean, they say the younger generation don't want to work, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they kind of see the writing on the wall, that they can go to school and get degrees and do all this stuff and get the best job they can find, and they're still never going to be able to afford to buy a house. They'll probably never have a new car. They're going to live in their parents' basements, and hopefully there's enough money floating around when their parents pass away to cover the death tax so that they can keep the house and maybe have a place to live. So they just don't have a lot of motivation. And I kind of get it. And as far as my generation goes, well, I'm a Gen Xer, and our motto is burn it all down. So I don't think any of us are real upset to see what's been going on lately. And of course, the problem is corporate America and the greed. Now, when I worked in the casino industry, I was high enough up the ladder. I was pretty high up the ladder. So high enough that I got to go to the big board meetings and things like that. And let me tell you how it works if you're not familiar with this. Some of you probably are, but if you're not. So Let's just make up a thing. Corporation A. Corporation A makes $1 billion a year. The next year, they make, now that's profit. That's money in the pocket. Okay. The next year, they make 900 million in profit. After they've paid off everything, that's what they got left, $900 million. Now, they don't look at it as, hey, we made $900 million. They look at it as, we lost $100 million. Now, they didn't lose anything, but that's how it's perceived. So year after year after year after year, you have to increase the profits. If you don't increase the profits year after year after year, the board of directors, which is just the shareholders, the top shareholders, will liquidate your company. They will sell it off, or they will sell the assets off, because they're going to cash out. So you have to continually increase profits. And that's the problem. That's a problem anyway. As these companies that keep making record profits and record profits and record profits have to keep going. They can't take a hit one year, or their shareholders will lose their mind. So every year they have to figure out, how do we make more money? Cut down employees, keep wages low. The system's broke. And the people, me and you and everyone else, we're tired of it. I mean, you go to work, you bust your butt, you still can't afford to live. You got to decide whether you're going to live indoors or eat, because you can't do both. So I talked a little bit about yesterday. Is this the beginning of the revolution? I don't know. It could be. And I believe this all came about when they stopped appreciating your employees. Back in the day when every place was privately owned and that, they took care of their employees. They appreciated their employees. They did things for their employees. What happens now? Well, your company comes out and says, hey, man, we had a record profit year. We made X amount of millions or billions of dollars. And, man, we just can't thank you guys enough. So we bought you a pizza. Yep, here's your pizza. At least you get to eat at work, because you can't afford to eat at home. They just don't care. And they're not going to care. I don't know how far this, whatever you want to call it, is going to go. But 10 buildings in 7 days seems like it's revving up. So we're just going to have to keep seeing what happens. And again, while I don't condone these actions, right? Okay. I understand completely. I get it. Hey, we're all in the same boat right now. Cost of living is going through the roof, and it's just going to get worse, okay? If you guys think it's going to get better, it's not. The last ships that went through the strait before the war started are going to arrive this week. We still have not seen the effects of shutting that strait down for, it's been almost 2 months now. That's coming, and that's going to hit hard on a population that's already stressed to the max. Now all of a sudden prices are going to skyrocket again. Things are going to be unavailable. It's not good. And the American people are tired of it. They're just tired of it. None of us, I don't think any of us mind working. We just want to be able to make a living. That's all it is. I don't mind working. I'll go to work. Pay me enough that I can, live comfortably. I don't need anything fancy. I just want to be comfortable, right? Like everybody else. But you can't afford to do it. All these prices are going up. Everything's going up except your wages. And if you ask for more money, a raise, better wages, they're just going to tell you, well, it's not in the budget. Now to this UBI thing that we've been hearing about, okay? The recent fires have brought this up into the spotlight again. And there's been talks of it. Now, I really, really, really do not like this idea. And I'll tell you why. Because they make it sound too good. Okay, they're telling you, listen, everybody's going to get a check, a government check, which, that alone should raise flags, because it's going to end up being like Social Security. They have no idea what it takes for us to live month to month. So they're going to give you something like $1,500, which isn't, okay, if you add that to what you make now, I'm sure it'll help. But I don't think it's going to work that way. There's always a catch. And here's what I think the catch might be. And this is what's got me worried. So they're going to give everybody these checks. Universal basic income. Everybody gets the same. But there's going to be a catch. In order to get your UBI check, you're going to have a job. The problem is that job is going to pay you exactly $0 an hour because it's not a job, it's a requirement. Now, I know some of you are saying, but OBP, that's illegal. They have to pay you at least minimum wage. And yeah, they do right now. But when this UBI comes out, I look for those laws to change. You know, they can change laws. So now the job that you're doing that is not paying you enough to survive on, maybe you're making $20, $25 an hour. Now that job's going to pay you exactly zero. But you'll get your little $1,500, $1,200, $1,500 UBI check every month because the powers that be in Washington have no idea what it takes to live on. They got no clue because they've been in them positions their whole life and they live in a fantasy land and they don't know what the rest of us go through. So that's my take on the whole UBI thing. I don't like it. So we'll keep an eye out on the news and see if these fires keep going. Oh, what they're also doing, another thing, forgot to bring this up, is there are a lot of places, so you can't have cameras in the bathroom, right? So there are people filling the toilets with spray foam and flushing it. Of course, when it gets in the pipes and hardens, no water goes through them pipes anymore. Now, most places, like mine here, the little place I work at, you know, these buildings don't have basements. So the pipes are buried in the concrete in the floor. So in order to replace those pipes, clear that clog out, they got to jackhammer up the floor, which is costing them a lot of money. And I don't even know if insurance covers that, so I don't know. So that's interesting. Bet the mainstream media didn't cover any of that. So guys, it looks like there's a reckoning coming. People have finally had enough. And I think we all knew this was coming. Something like this. You know, a lot of people say, but violence isn't the answer. Well, again, I'm not condoning anything that's going on, but that quote, that entire quote actually says that violence isn't the answer until it's the only answer.